At 9:05 p.m. last night, two men, one in his mid-30s, one in his mid-20s, were seated in a car in a house in South Wentworthville. Both of them were shot. They managed to drive for around 100 or 150 metres. Unfortunately, both men subsequently died. They were taken to hospital from there. Investigations obviously commenced immediately, and there is a joint investigation now, which is a murder investigation, headed up by the Homicide Squad and the local area command detectives. We do urge anyone who has any information about this matter or related matters to contact police on Crime Stoppers, 1800 333 000.
Yeah, let's go to questions.
Can you remember they were in a house on that street just prior to them, that they were leaving the premises there?
I'm not aware of that. My understanding is they were sitting in a vehicle in a driveway.
Any idea why they were sitting in the car there?
That's not known yet, no.
Do we know who they are? I mean, are we dealing with good citizens here, or, you know, they know you? What? Fill us in about these people.
Both the individuals who have died were known to police, well known to police, unfortunately.
In what role? Can you be a bit more forthcoming?
It's difficult to do that, but certainly they're both well known to us, obviously not as in a good way.
Have they been targeted before?
Possibly, yes.
Yes or no? I mean, have they been...
We suspect one of them certainly was, the other one we're not sure.
Can you tell us about those circumstances? When was he targeted?
We suspect one of those individuals had been the subject of a previous shooting incident.
Was that a drive-by shooting?
No. It's one of the points that I think is worth noting with this incident is that it's different to the drive-by shootings. It's not just a random act where they shoot at a brick wall hoping that someone's inside. This would, I mean, while in any murder investigation, we will keep an open mind and we will consider all the possibilities. But certainly on the face of it with this one, you would have to say it's very specific, it's very targeted, and while it's no small comfort to the community, they need to know that it wasn't random and that the individuals involved appear to have been specifically targeted.
So you don't think that this will start a wave of tit-for-tat shootings?
I haven't seen any evidence of that, but we'll certainly be alert.
The previous shooting, was he wounded in that previous shooting?
I understand that's the case, and it was a good couple of years earlier than that.
Witnesses have said out there today that there was apparently their home that these men lived in was raided a few months ago. Is that true?
I think so, yes.
Do you know why it was raided?
No.
Apparently they collected a lot of evidence. Could you tell us what was in it?
I'm not aware of that, no.
Can you comment on what happened outside the hospital? Were friends and family blocked from entering?
I don't think they were blocked from entering. I think they sought access to the bodies, and for whatever reason at the time, between hospital authorities and the police, it was decided that wasn't feasible at that point in time. Tempest flared and the police were called. And while we understand that families grieve quite strongly, obviously, when they've lost a loved one, obviously everybody has to obey the rules and the law, and that's why police were called.
So would you say that this is a part of organised crime?
I can't say that simply because I don't want to preempt what the investigation may come up with. However, I would say, on the face of it, with this sort of hit, you would have to say there's a strong possibility it's probably connected to some other crime.
Any idea what gun was used and how
Not
many
at this
bullets were
stage.
there?
No, I can't say that yet.
I understand a second crime scene has been established just up the street from where the crash is.
I understand that's where the car came to rest, and the two bodies, or the two individuals, were found.
What's the relationship between the two victims?
It's not known.
Was there a phone call from one of the victims to his mother just moments after the shooting? Have you heard anything about that?
I'm not aware of that, no.
Can you tell us,
But we're certainly interested in that.
tell us how many shootings there have been this year? I've seen different figures in different places.
I guess the definitions vary greatly. Sometimes the definitions vary within the media and certainly between us and the media. But certainly somewhere, if you classify drive-by shootings as shootings that are random at houses, in the dozens, I would say.
The opposition leader's saying that it's 97, is that correct?
I don't think he's too far off the mark.
The one guy that's been identified as Roy Yagi. Now, what can you tell us about Roy Yagi?
Look, I'm not really at liberty to discuss that individual and his background. And you can understand part of the process that we have to follow is liaising and talking to the loved one, next of kin of the deceased. I don't think it would serve any purpose at this point in time for us to discuss the individual who's been dead, who's been killed.
Apart from talking to his family, I mean, look at his criminal record. Has he a criminal record?
He's certainly well known to us. I can't take it any further than that, I'm sorry.
Can you say that he was involved in drugs?
No.
drug dealing?
No, I can't say that at the moment.
What do you think the likelihood is that this is drug related?
I think there's a strong likelihood it's connected to some other type of crime, as I said earlier, but I cannot and I can't see how anyone could possibly, at this early stage of the investigation, preempt anything by saying it's related specifically to drugs or firearms or anything else.
How does it make you feel? Because you've stood here so many times, and so has the Commissioner, so many times over the last 2 years and said this is ridiculous, we don't want it, it's not going to happen, we're going to arrest people, we're going to throw them in jail. But guess what? They're still doing it.
We're frustrated. Clearly we're frustrated. All police are frustrated. In a perfect world, we could write ourselves out of a job. It's not going to happen. What we need to do is remain focused, attempt to engage the community even more than we do, and we're doing a lot of work in that regard, trying to win the confidence of people so that we break down that wall of silence. And I think we're getting there in terms of people having confidence to pick up the phone or go to a police station and talk to the police, knowing that if they wish, their identities will be protected and the information will be used wisely.
Often we hear that shootings happen as a warning. They're meant to send a message to the particular person involved. This wasn't a warning, was it? This was meant to be a targeted attack that took a life.
Yeah, clearly this wasn't a warning.
And you know, just going back a couple of days ago, there's a 16-year-old boy that was shot, and his father obviously has got some role to play there as well. What's happened there? I mean, no one was cooperating. Has anyone been charged? Have you charged them for failing to assist the police?
No, we haven't charged them yet, or we haven't charged anyone yet, and I think in my knowledge in that matter, but the investigation's continuing and I expect a result fairly soon in that one.
In terms of, are they assisting you now?
They've certainly cooperated to some extent, but perhaps not to the extent that we would like. If I could just talk perhaps a little bit more generally in terms of witnesses telling us what they know. Sometimes they tell you a little bit of what they know, but we suspect there may be other things they know that are crucial that we're not going to hear from them. It's difficult for us to, firstly, ascertain how much they're holding back, and then secondly, prove it in a court of law if we are going to charge someone, to prove that they know something that they're not telling you. I mean, people simply say, I didn't see anything, I didn't hear anything, I didn't know anything, and it's very difficult to rebut that in terms of proper, admissible evidence in a court of law so that you can prove that that's exactly what happened.
This is a cultural thing, obviously, and how hard is it to break down those barriers? Obviously, it's pretty difficult.
It is difficult, but we've done an awful lot of work, certainly in relation to some communities, to try and break down that wall of silence. And I have to say, that wall of silence doesn't simply exist among particular ethnic groups or religious groups. There are some Anglo-Saxon people in Sydney who will never tell the police what they know. And it's important to keep that in mind as well.
Were these people involved in any current court cases? Do you think they might have been
Not,
because of
not that we're aware of. No, not that we're aware of.
And tell us about these men. Were they family, like family men, fathers?
I think I've said a couple of times, it's difficult for me to go into the specifics of these persons' details for a whole range of reasons, not least of which the investigation has to proceed a bit further before we do that. There may be a point in time down the track when we're able to tell you a bit more about who they are and what they are.
Are police in the south and southwest overwhelmed by gun crime?
No.
Do you need more police out there, as the opposition says?
We'd never say no to more police, as the Commissioner often says, but I don't think overwhelmed is really a right adjective. I don't think that's the case at all. I think they're very busy, they're going about their business, they're incredibly effective in a lot of what they do. Having said that, obviously these issues continue and we can't take our eye off the ball. We've got to persist.
Are the families of these victims cooperating with police?
I'm not aware of anyone not cooperating at this point in time.
The personal persons involved in this are obviously very dangerous. Members of the public that have accidentally witnessed something here, wouldn't they just be too petrified to come forward? If this person is capable of shooting two people at close range in a car on the side of the road, if I was a member of the public, I don't know if I'd come forward.
Well, that's exactly the thought that we're trying to counter. I'd give you a commitment here and now. If anybody does have information along the lines you've just outlined, they should have some confidence in coming forward, and our commitment is to protect their identity, to look after them, but we do need the information.
Commissioner, what's your take on this? It's pretty ugly, isn't it?
Oh, it's ugly. There is no doubt. And to probably pick up on a couple of the points that the deputies made, a couple of things we need to reiterate and make sure everyone understands. First, this was not a random attack. It wasn't a by chance attack. It was targeted. It was directed. People knew exactly what they were doing and who were the intended targets. So that's important to make the point with. In terms of the work that's happening in New South Wales, particularly in Western Sydney area when it comes to gun crime. Some of the figures that we put before you in the past with operations like Spartan and Kanara, there's been over 500 arrests, over 1,000 charges, and in terms of Spartan alone, some of those firearm-related incidents where we've arrested 35 people, charged 36 charges, 35 people arrested and charged. We've taken almost 50 firearms out of circulation, and that's since the beginning of this year. So we are continuing to go after this type of crime. The wall of silence is hideous. The fact is, there is a wall of silence. We need to do all we can to break that down. People out there now listening, watching, they know who's done this, they probably know what's happened, and they need to be part of the solution. You're either part of the wall or you come and help us break it down. And so our call, as the deputies indicated, is for you to come forward. If somebody's worried, they need not fear. That's what we're here for. We protect people that want to come forward and tell us. And so my plea is, if you know something, tell us. 1800 333 000. We will look after you.